One today to today's seminar presented by the MedTech Talent Accelerator Program. We're very happy today to welcome some former trainees to the program. This is actually our first trainee seminars where we'll be asking former students to reflect on their MedTech industry internships. So our program launched in summer 2020, was our first batch of interns. So we're very happy to have some students come back and actually reflect and share with current students, prospective students, and even some industry members on what their experience was like through the MedTech Talent Accelerator program. So just a quick overview of our program. The MedTech Talent Accelerator is a national training program designed to launch the next generation of industry-ready talent for the Canadian medical technology sector. The program is a collaboration between McGill, Ryerson, Dalhousie, University of Calgary, School of Biomedical Engineering at the University of British Columbia, the Biomedical Zone, and MedTech Canada, which is the National Association of Medical Technology Industries. So for those of you who'd like to learn more about our program, please visit talent-accelerator.com. Our students today, we're pleased to be joined by Brenda Guzman-Juarez, who's a chemistry PhD candidate at McGill, Justin DiGregorio, an MASc in biomedical engineering at Ryerson, Monalisa Nayak, a bioengineering and biomedical engineering PhD candidate at McGill, and finally, Philip Rodera, a biomedical physics PhD candidate at Ryerson University. So welcome to you all. This is going to be a pretty free form type of panel. I'll be asking a question and I'll be asking for an answer from each of you. If there are any questions from the audience, please feel free to write in the chat. And hopefully if time allows at the end, there'll be time for Q&A. So Brenda, starting with you. First, please tell us a bit about yourself and what attracted you to the MedTech Talent Accelerator program.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm just finishing my PhD in chemistry at McGill University. And I was in the program pretty much about the last year of my PhD. I was thinking maybe just to get some experience in what science looks like in industry, and also because my expertise is in chemistry, but not really related to health or to something like I wanted to experience what it is to work on something that has an actual application in the real life. So I think that the MedTech Talent Accelerator program pretty much checked all the boxes. It was the perfect opportunity because first, it provides with a training that it teaches you about different areas of importance in the MedTech industry. And also it helps, it already has some partnerships with some well-known companies. So they help you throughout the whole process. It's very straightforward, and I think it was the perfect opportunity for me to get an experience of how it's the research conducted at the industry, and also how it is to participate in projects that help to improve people's lives. So for me, it was like the perfect opportunity to get everything that I wanted from an internship. Yeah, I think sometimes it can be a little bit hard from students when they want to do an internship, if they want to find the internship themselves, because it can be a long process and a very difficult one. So I think the program just facilitates everything for you. It gives you the training, it gives you the tools, it gives you it gets you in touch with the right companies. So I think it's an amazing opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. And that's great to hear because, as you know, our program is open to students from across science and engineering, as long as you're interested in medical technology. And, chemistry isn't necessarily the most obvious connection to medtech, but there's clearly a connection that can be drawn. So that's great to hear. All right, so next I will ask Justin, please tell us a bit about yourself and what attracted you to the program.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So I have a Master's of Applied Science in Biomedical Engineering. I enrolled in the MedTech program when I was in the writing phase of my thesis. So I was about 4 or 5 months out away from defending when I joined. My idea for joining was that, you're in school for 7-8 years between the undergrad and the master's, for example, and you're kind of itching to get working. And the idea that you can have this program that sort of facilitates that and gets you on the sort of fast track while you're getting ready to defend and finish up, it was sort of seemed like a really ideal scenario. So I started working for a company called ReadySpec. It's a startup. We're using hyperspectral imaging of the retina to detect Alzheimer's disease. And they actually ended up hiring me once my internship ended, which was, to be honest, what I was hoping for. And from what I'm understanding is a pretty common thing that happens. So it kind of, like Brenda was saying, checked all the boxes, really eased the whole process of having to find a job once you graduate.
Perfect, thank you. And yeah, that's a great example of how the internship is really a chance for the students and companies to evaluate each other for a long-term position once the internship is done. So I'm glad that worked out for you. And you're right, it happens for a lot of other students as well. Okay, next, Monalisa, please tell us a bit about yourself and what attracted you to the MedTech Talent Accelerator.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Hi, everyone. So I'm Monalisa. I'm finishing up my PhD in biomedical engineering from McGill University. So my first thought to join MedTech Talent Accelerator was that I wasn't very sure that whether I'm going to continue in academics or I'm able to join the industry or I'll be a good fit to the industrial setup. I've been in academics for 7 to 8 years, and just to be transition towards the industry, I just found this program a best option for me. So while I was writing my thesis, I attended all seminars and all the informational seminars that proposed by the MedTech Talent Accelerator, and it was really fascinating. So I joined in 2021, and it was too easy process to get into the internship because they do all the jobs for you, like conduct the companies and give your CVs to them, and you are approached by the companies to have the interviews. So it was a really easy process. When I was writing my thesis, I wasn't worried about search for the internships. So that's the one best offer they can offer you to go for through the MedTech Talent Accelerator. And another important factor that I found, that you get a lot of connections. So when we are planning to go to the industry, you really need a lot of connections. That's what I found through the program, just to connect a lot of companies or many company members that you could talk to if you want to join after an internship. So yeah, that's all about it.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned how, as a PhD student, you were looking at going into industry, because, a lot of people think the PhD just prepares you to be in academia and to be a researcher, but actually the majority of PhD students go on to industry. So our program, as you know, is a great opportunity to actually explore that avenue and get your foot in the door. Okay, so next and finally, Philip, please tell us a bit about yourself and what attracted you to the program.
Sure. So yeah, I just wrapped up my master's a few months ago, and I'm my first year of PhD. I started the program in the final 4 months, so during the writing phase of my thesis. So it was quite challenging in that regard. But what attracted me to the program was that it was really the internship experience for me. So I think there's a lot of people that I've spoken to in the last 4 years during my graduate studies and my undergraduate studies, and I'm asking them, what are they doing, or what are they planning to do coming out of the graduate program? A lot of people say, they want to go into industry, and then I ask them, well, what does that really mean? And they don't really have an answer. They don't know what that means. So what interested me about this was it gave me a taste of industry, and it let me explore that question a little bit more of what it means to really go into the industry. But another interesting thing was the industry ready courses. So, I always kind of had this interest in medical device development myself. And, I wanted to learn a little bit about, how that works, because you don't really get, I guess, the knowledge of what it means to develop a device and the challenges that come along with that, like approaching investors and making business plans and this kind of stuff. So the industry ready courses really kind of gave me some perspective on how that works. I thought that was a really interesting part of that.
Perfect, thank you. And that's actually a great segue into my next question, because as you know, so before your internships begin, all students in the program are required to take this industry ready course, which covers key aspects of the medtech industry, which most likely are not covered in your graduate studies. So Philip, I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite part of the course, and what was your favorite topic perhaps, and why?
Yeah, so maybe I'll give you my top three. I think the favorite part for me was the medical device development portion. So there was actually a small assignment in that portion where you were asked to develop a device and then all of the specifics regarding it. So, it kind of made you think about a little bit. It turns kind of something that's more of a dream for you, or for me, I guess, in my case, and kind of really makes you map it out and kind of try to bring it into reality. And it's kind of challenging, but if you put in the time, it kind of gives you this excitement that you're really working towards something, I think, and it provides you skills that you didn't think that you would have before. I also thought the clinical trials and the risk management portions were pretty interesting. Again, it's kind of things you'd know less about. It's not really advertised, I guess, in the university setting, but it kind of tells you how risky some of these ventures can be, and the strategies you could use to kind of mitigate that risk, especially when you're dealing with real people that could die as a result of this new research, as well as the risk management, again, kind of making you think in the real world, how are you going to put this device out and mitigate things like, things you would never think about, like electrocution or like waterproofing. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It kind of really brings things into reality. Excellent.
And yeah, of course, the idea of the course is to be able to apply that knowledge and skills in your industry internship. So hopefully it was a seamless transition. Monalisa, how about you? What was your favorite part of the course?
Yeah, like as Philip mentioned, that medical device development course was one of my favorite, and because the same, like when we're doing the assignment, we're thinking some like crucial ideas that how we're going to develop one device. And apart from that, I think I'd like most the IP protection plan, because it's a when you are developing a device, you need to know that how you're going to protect your devices. And when you have a device which is under different IP protection plans and you're not sure about it, that course really provided an insight that what like in which protection plan your device would be fit and how you are going ahead with the IP, intellectual property rights. So that was really interesting to me.
Excellent, thank you. How about you, Justin? What was your favorite part of the course?
Yeah, I was genuinely going to say the IP stuff as well, but in addition to that, just to not have too much overlap, was sort of the overview of the FDA approval process and what it takes to actually get a medical device to market. A lot of the prospective companies are startups who haven't entered the market yet, and so if you are working for them, whether it's just for the duration of the internship or long term, you're probably going to be right in the thick of going through that process. So, having a high level understanding of what you're going to be going through is definitely some practical information.
Great, thank you. And Brenda, was there anything we missed in this course overview, or anything you'd like to emphasize which really resonated with you?
Well, I think for me, because I come from chemistry that doesn't have any overlap with health, everything was pretty new for me. Everything was really enlightening. I didn't have anything like a background in health or clinical trials, so I really learned a lot. And I guess, as everybody said, like, because I was working also in medical wearable devices, I guess the digital health module was really, really important for me, as well as the intellectual property one, because that's something you don't need to use only in industry, but also when you're doing your PhD, if you think you have an idea, that's also useful if you want to at some point patent your idea. So yeah, I think those were my favorite ones.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Brenda. So we're going to stick with you for the next question. Now we're going to try to reflect on the internships themselves. So can you please describe your internship roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, sure. So my internship was at Hub Technologies, which is a startup that basically combines medical wearable devices and also artificial intelligence to help physicians to monitor the health of different patients. So as in every startup, pretty much everyone does a little bit of everything. So I was involved in different projects. I was in charge of one part of the research team that basically was creating some protocols to validate the sensors that we are using in the medical device. But I was also working in different regulatory affairs because we want to submit some applications to Health Canada and to some REVs. I was also doing some research on the materials that we use for the medical devices. I was creating some protocols to basically calculate the number of participants that we're going to be using. I was just working on many different things. I think also at some point some part was remote, but some part also was working at the lab at the Montreal General Hospital, where I got to see how the medical devices were assembled. We were able to try it on different people. I was able to talk to different doctors, nurses to create the best protocols for the different projects. So I think it was a very broad experience for me. It was really good to see how, even though my expertise is in one area, I was able to translate all the different knowledge and research skills and analytical skills to different areas that is not necessarily chemistry. So it was a very good experience for me because I got to learn about the different areas in the company, and I was able to contribute to all of the different projects.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So now we'll go to Justin. Please describe your internship and what did you do?
Yeah, similar to Brenda, ReadySpec is a startup. And so if you find yourself working for a startup, I imagine there's going to be a similar trend of you have to wear many hats. You're involved in a lot of different aspects of the work. And so trying to think of one thing that I was doing it's kind of difficult to do because there's so many different projects that you work on, and it kind of changes on a week-to-week basis as different needs come up. But what I will say is that the work I was doing in my internship is very similar, if not the same, to the work that I'm doing now that I'm working full-time for the company. And I think that's a really, I would hope that that's sort of similar to what other people experience, just because then at least you know that whether you're trying to gauge if you want to work or continue pursuing academia, or if you're just trying to get a sense for the medical field as a whole, you want your experience to be as authentic as possible. So it's definitely possible that you're going to be doing work that's very real to what a full-time position would be. But in terms of the actual work itself, we're an AI hyperspectral imaging company. So I did everything from working on the AI pipelines themselves to dealing with ways to manage our data, to dealing with ways to improve the quality of our data, sort of all sorts of things.
Okay, yeah, interesting on the startup aspect, because having worked at a startup myself, I know that everyone wears many hats, and hopefully this program allows you to just give a bit of structure to that and give a bit more confidence that you can rely on in all these different roles, because it could be daunting, definitely, to be responsible for so many different things. Okay, so next, Monalisa, please.
Sure. So I just completed my 8 months internship in Ananda Devices, which is in Montreal. It's also a startup. And so it uses the microfluidic platforms to improve standardization on reproducibility of cell ashes, also for the accelerated drug research and development. So I was basically involved in the area of data management and data analysis. I have been an experimental scientist for 5-6 years. So it was a new challenge for me just to be able to do the job in the area of that data scientist. But it was a good experience for me to know that whether I'm a good fit to that area, though I could use some sort of knowledge from my PhD when I was working in the industry, but still that it was also a very new area for me, because I was involved in different projects, different kinds of data, and different kind of management of data as well. But the good thing is that after the finishing the internship, that I know that whether I'm going to do my future job in the area of data analysis or the experimental scientist jobs. So which was the main reason that I joined the internship and I got the result out of it, I would say. So that's a good thing.
Perfect, thank you. And then finally, Philip.
Yeah, so I think I had maybe a little bit of a different experience than the other panelists here, because I work for Visual Sonics, which was a startup 20 years ago. So they've kind of evolved into not really a bigger company. They're still a small company, but now they're owned by a bigger company, by Fujifilm. So I think I had less of the role of wearing many hats and just kind of wearing I did wear a few hats, but maybe not in the same sense as some of the other people here. You know, officially my role was to support the engineering team, but unofficially I was kind of working on a lot of side projects that they wanted to do, but they didn't have time on because they were working on deliverables for customers, right? So their priority was to kind of, you know, roll out new updates or new devices that they were working on, fixing bugs and this kind of stuff. So kind of the research and development that they wanted to do but didn't have the time to do, that's the kind of stuff that I was kind of helping them work on, and I would bring it to them and say, you know, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? This is what I've done. And there was also a small role, I guess, of quality assurance, right? So there were times where things needed to be pushed out and there were deadlines, and we needed to run tests on the systems, right? So if there was a bug that was known, I needed to go and check, you know, has this been resolved? Is there a new one that I could find? And then documenting and reporting that. But I think that was a much smaller part of the work, even though that was part of the job description. That was something that maybe happened once every couple of months, but it was a lot of research and development, and I thought that was pretty neat.
Okay, great. And again, you provide a nice segue into my next question, because you know, you touched on quality assurance, and that was a topic of our industry-focused course. So I'm wondering if you could please explain now a bit how you applied the skills and knowledge gained from the industry course in your actual internship.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the interesting parts that I didn't think I would use as much, but ended up using quite a bit, was again, I'm going to talk about the risk management aspect of the industry ready courses. So again, I thought this would be really important when you're first developing a medical device. But again, as I was working on kind of those research and development side projects, I needed to think of ways not only, you know, make the device work and work in the way that we need it to work, but also to keep the device safe, not only for the end user, but also for myself, because I was working on things that were, you know, had very high voltages, or they were working in wavelengths that, you know, would hurt my eyes or my skin if I didn't protect myself properly, or I could get myself electrocuted. So I had to kind of take all these extra measures to ensure not only the safety of the end user, but also for myself.
Okay, great. Thank you. And yeah, risk management is so broad, and we can only cover it, you know, to a certain extent in the industry course, because there are so many you know, risks, categories of risk that, you know, it applies to. So it's nice to see that, you know, you could specialize in that area. Monalisa, please, can you let us know what from the industry course you were able to apply in your internship?
Sure. I think I was, as I mentioned, that I was mainly involved to optimize the device, for instance. So it was kind of like we are managing the risks. That's the way Philip said. So I was kind of involved that to know or to understand what are the risks associated with the device. So because the products that we are developing, we're selling to the cosmetic companies and also we're to the hospitals for the drug research. So it was a very challenging thing to us to know that whether the device is working properly or not, and what are the risk factors. So that was, I was mainly involved with doing a lot of analysis to know that what are the error rates or what are the other factors are responsible to if it's creating any risk or sort of things.
Okay, so definitely risk management was a hot topic that was clearly useful in these internships. Okay, so now I'll ask Justin, please, what was applicable from the industry course?
Yeah, I think just being exposed to the terminology, it helps you in your sort of day-to-day interactions or that random meeting you find yourself a part of when people are talking about intellectual property or 501k and all these sort of things. It's just less daunting when you've heard the terminology before and you've seen it before, and it just gives you a wider sort of scope of knowledge and things to draw on, so that you can either contribute to the conversation or just sort of stay in tune and stay focused with what's going on. So I would say just the general exposure that the course provides you to the things that you're likely going to come across is always beneficial.
Absolutely. So yeah, vocabulary, it should not be discounted as a key tool, you know, because in science and engineering, you have your own vocabulary that you need to learn. It's like a new language, but also in the translational aspects and the industry aspects specific to this industry, you're absolutely right. So that's nice to hear. And finally, Brenda, can you please let us know what did you take from the course and apply it in your internship?
Yeah, I think for me, the topics that came in handy were, for example, the research ethics, because I was also in charge of preparing different protocols and documents to submit to REB. Regulatory affairs, that was another one because we had to prepare different documents to get approvals by Health Canada. The digital health one, gave me all the background to sign the conversation just to participate in the vocabulary of the concept, contribute. And also the project management, you have to execute difficult projects.
Brenda, your audio is kind of cutting in and out a bit for me, but I caught a little bit there on project management and some certain aspects that were applicable to your internship.
Okay, I'm gonna check it.
Okay, so we'll give someone else a chance to answer now. My next question is just basically for your internship overall. I'm wondering if you could give it a rating. So Monalisa, we'll start with you. How would you rate your internship overall, and kind of what were the most valuable takeaways for you?
Yeah, sure. I just in one word, I liked it very much. Like I liked the company of everyone, all of my colleagues, and all the lab environment. Because it was a startup, so it was a very easy to talk to everyone. Like it is a very small group, so you have access to everyone to talk to and to understand that what they're doing and what are the thinking process when they're working on something. And the second important thing that I learned, that you have to be very detail oriented. Like when you are doing something in an industry, particularly, you are answering to a lot of people in a different area or background. So, and they don't know nothing about your work or about the work you are doing or others doing. So they don't have the expertise, so you have to really understand. They can ask you very silly questions that you never expect, but you have to be ready with that question. So you have to be really aware of that. So you have to be very detail oriented. Third, because it's a startup, so you are you are ready. You have to be ready to work on any project in any day. For instance, even if one day you are given one project to work with, but there will be some deadline for second one, and you will be like asked to do that. So you have to be ready to just to transition from one project to second project. So that was a really good experience for me, just to be ready all the time to work on different projects of different aspects. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, the work environment is a different environment than in school and in the lab. There are some similarities, but there are definitely some differences. So I'm glad this program was able to help you see that. Philip, can you please let us know just what was your overall rating of the internship and your valuable takeaways?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult thing to quantify, I would say, but I would say that the experience was a extremely valuable one, and it's something that I really appreciated and I really enjoyed overall. Not only did I manage to make lots of connections and put something in my resume, but again, I got a good taste of what it means to be in industry. I got to work with a great team of people who are always, as I was, officially my job was to support them, right? But ultimately it was, me working on the projects and them supporting me. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it overall. And again, it kind of gave me the opportunity to, during my university experience, get my foot in the door and graduate with work experience, which is, I think, something that a majority of people don't really get to do, right? A lot of people graduate and they don't have that work experience, and they don't have the connections in order to make that job until maybe later on. But I feel like I have a leg up in compared to some other people, and I have not only, again, the connections and the experience, but sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But I know what the expectations and the responsibilities are and what they're looking for in the industry, because it is sometimes a little bit different in industry research than what you're doing in the academic research in terms of deliverables and what the ultimate goal is.
Perfect, thank you. And I think you raise a key point of, just being prepared to talk to people in industry when you go to that next step, looking for a job or, progressing through your career in this industry, because, medtech is just very specific. It's broad. There are lots of different medical technologies out there. But through this program, we kind of try to present the unifying factors that, kind of how Justin was mentioning, the common language that is spoken amongst everyone. So, that's nice to hear for sure. Okay, Justin, please, how would you rate your experience, and what were some takeaways for you?
Yeah, so before I started, my research was in basically applying artificial intelligence and image processing techniques to analyzing MRI. And so now at ReadySpec, we're using artificial intelligence and image processing for analyzing retinal images. So I was pretty lucky in the sense that it was a pretty direct translation of the skills that I had been developing over my master's degree. And then I got to essentially use them during my internship. So from a work perspective, there was definitely a lot of catching up to do and a lot of things to learn, but I felt like it was within reach and doable based on what my skill set had been developing as. People are and amazing to work with, so it was good from that point of view, from a networking perspective. And obviously it resulted in a job without having to do too much work actually after graduating. So, I mean, I'm pretty happy. I don't really have anything to complain about.
All right, definitely. And kind of how Philip was saying, it's not easy to quantify how you're satisfied with the internship, but it's nice to hear that it was a good experience. And there was one other thing I was going to mention is just how it's a great opportunity to just see what you can translate from your graduate studies to industry, because you're not going to be able to translate everything, but if you want to maximize that or just see what are the skills and knowledge that can be translated to industry, I think this is a great kind of playground for students to see what's out there and what you can do. Okay, so Brenda, please rate your overall experience. If not, you're able to quantify it, but just give us a rating and let us know some takeaways, please. So now I can't hear you at all. No, before it was choppy, but now the sound isn't coming through on my end at least. If it's not working, no, then maybe we'll give you another round to do some technical solutions. Okay, so now I'll bring it back to kind of, because the goal of this program is really to launch you into the next step of your career. So maybe Monalisa, if you could please let us know, how has this program help you progress to the next step in your career, please?
Sure. As I was mentioning in the last discussion that we are having, that I could kind of find a lot of connections that I know that I want to work with. And it all happened through this program because I could meet them in the company that I was interning with, and also through different seminars. During the internship, I know my, like, I kind of now know my strength, that in the industrial fit, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, which that I wanted to discover throughout. And I was so confused when I was finishing up my PhD. So now when I am looking at a job, the first thing that I know that what kind of job I'm looking for, I'm not very confused about it right now. So which was a great thing that happened to me. And I think second, that now the connection thing that I would say, because now I know the people and I know how to talk to them. So I kind of will use that connections to find a job, hopefully. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And how about you, Philip? How has this program helped you progress in your career?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to the industry courses again. Again, that's something that's so unique that again, you're not going to get out of the other university courses, right? So as I mentioned, kind of my dream is to go into medical device development. And if I decided to pursue after my PhD to kind of start a new venture, build a company or something like that, I kind of have the knowledge to be able to do that, even to work at a startup, which wasn't part of my industry experience. But if I were to do that in the future, again, I have the capabilities to wear those many hats as I have the kind of that foundation for the medical technology industry. As well as, even if I choose not to pursue that, I have the industry experience during my university experience. I'll be graduating with that experience, and I have now references outside of my academic supervisors, so I'll have an industry reference. And again, I know I have my feet wet for what it means to work in industry, and I think I have, again, an advantage when I'm applying for jobs in the future, whether that's for the same company or for another one.
Excellent. And yeah, at the very least, this is a notch on your resume that you can add and talk about in any interviews. So that's definitely nice to hear. Justin, please, how has this helped you progress in your career?
Yeah, obviously, being hired by the company, it puts you on the path in a very direct way to sort of take the next step in your career. But sort of like what you just said, my thought going into it was, worst case scenario, I get job experience and something to put on my resume and something to speak to. Best case scenario, maybe I get a job itself. So there's really a lot of upside and not too much low side.
Very good. And yeah, it's not it's significant experience either, because a lot of internships out there are 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months for masters and 8 months for PhD. That's substantial experience that you can rely on. So thanks for mentioning that. Okay, Brenda, should we give it another shot? How's it going?
I think it should work now.
Oh, that sounds great. Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Okay. So first, I just want to ask, can you please rate your overall internship experience, and what were kind of some valuable takeaways for you?
Yeah, I think I could totally recommend the program, like 100%. I think for me, it was a good experience to kind of create that bridge between, there's a gap for sure in the research in academia and the research in industry. So for me, it gave me all the tools to kind of have a better idea of how you can go from academia to research and industry. It gave me all the different tools to kind of have a better idea of how it's
to work with different people from different scientific backgrounds, to communicate better research also in all the levels of the company. It also kind of made me rewire a little bit the brain, because I think when you are doing your PhD or your master's, your mindset is a little bit structured in a certain way. And in industry, you have to be a little bit more flexible, more pragmatic. You have the deliverables, so you have to kind of rewire all whatever you're used to work. So you have to adapt a little bit. And I think it also gave me like good opportunities, because I was able to talk to different people, to network a lot. I think I didn't mention it before, but the company also made me an offer to stay with them. So I think they were pretty happy with the work I did there. So they also offered, like, even if I don't stay with them, they offered to put me in contact with different pharmaceuticals or different other types of companies. So just to complement the last question that you were saying, I think it also kind of expanded all the professional and personal network that I had and that I created in grad school. And now I can just pursue different paths. I have a better idea of the kind of industry and the kind of work that I want to do afterwards. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Excellent, thank you. And I think you covered the last question I was going to ask you was, how this helped with your career progression, because you did neglect to say, I think, that your company made you an offer, which is great to hear, because, it just goes to show you that it really does happen, a good amount, that companies decide to keep on their interns. And like I said, it's a great opportunity for companies and students to evaluate each other for that opportunity going forward. Okay, well, thank you for all the panelists. I want to open it up to any questions from the audience, because this is a great opportunity for there's lots of current students in the audience who are either doing their internships or about to take on internships or looking for internships. So do we have any questions for students who've actually gone through it and completed their internships? And while we wait for any questions from the audience to come in, I want to ask the panelists themselves, do you have any questions for each other? Because you did go through different experiences, similar but different. Is there anything anyone wants to ask each other?
Maybe I'll ask just a general question. If any of the panelists were you headhunted by a particular company that you applied for, or did you already have a connection and you used the MedTech program to initiate that 4-month internship or 8-month internship for the PhD?
I can speak to this. So personally, when I was getting into the program, we had the list of companies that we could potentially apply to, and we had to rank them. And ReadySpec was my #1 choice, just because of sort of what I was saying earlier about how similar the work seemed to what I was actually doing in my master's degree. And people through MedTech like Adnan here that helped facilitate that transaction. But I think the fit was pretty obvious right at the onset. So that's how it worked out for me. But no, I didn't know anybody at ReadySpec personally before I started working here.
Good to know, thanks.
Okay, we do have a question from the audience, but please, Monalisa.
Yeah, so I will just extend that answer from Justin a bit. So though in the application, we have to classify we have to rank the companies that we are interested to work with. But the company that I work with, it wasn't in the list and I did rank with, but that means that even if you don't rank, you are still honored by the companies that the talent accelerator program helped you to do. So it means that you are exposed to a lot of other companies too, just to add a bit.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a pretty general question from the audience, just someone saying that they're a biomedical engineering student at McGill and how to get an internship at a medtech company. So obviously this program is a great way to do that. Please apply through our website, talent-accelerator.com. There are instructions on how to apply, and you'll basically be placed in our program if eligible, and take our industry focused course. And the program coordinates interviews and exposure to companies for internship placement. So for anyone interested, please visit our website or feel free to reach out to the program managers at McGill or Ryerson to learn more. Okay, we have another question from Alan. Did anyone here start their internship in May, and were you notified of interviews? So interviews for students are really kind of on an ad hoc basis. Maybe that's something we can ask our panelists and kind of how your interview process was, because it really is different for everyone. What we do is we aggregate information about you. So your resume, we ask you to do a short video pitch even for companies that are in our network to browse, and we send that out to our partner companies. And then if there's a match, they decide to go for interviews. And then finally, if you pass that stage, they'll make an offer for an internship placement. So I think that's a good question for everyone here. So maybe Justin, do you want to start and kind of explain how your internship placement process, how that went for you?
Yeah, so I ranked my companies, and I actually had the interview and sent the resume or whatever. And I actually had the interview, the first interview, a day or two after that. So it was really quick, but the interview process itself was not quick. My now boss, the head of AI here, he literally gave me an AI assignment to do, and it was like, you know, it was quite a bit of work. So I had to do that to sort of show the technical acumen, and then I had to meet with the CEO to see if there was like the culture fit. So my takeaway from that would be there's going to be a lot of variation in terms of when you actually get an interview, and then there's going to be a lot of variation in terms of what the interview process is actually like. That's pretty dependent on the company and what their needs are. So my experience is probably going to be very different from other people's experiences, but expect the unexpected, I guess. Like there's a lot to it, and you might have to do some technical stuff. You might have to show that you're a team player. You might have to show this, that. It's going to be quite different from company to company, I imagine.
That's it. So it's not a perfect science. Every company is different in, you know, what they want when they're hiring, and, you know, the timeline as well when they are hiring. And, you know, it really comes down to finding a good match. So, you know, the best way to get a good match is to just be very transparent in your resume. Have a good resume. We actually do review your resumes when you apply to the program, and we give feedback on that to optimize your chance of getting selected for an interview. And then once the interview process starts, you know, just be yourself, and you know, just again, transparency and honesty is the best policy. So we did post our a link to our website in the chat here for how to apply. And we have another question here. Is there some sort of technical or industry experience needed to get into the internship? So maybe I'll hand that off to someone on the panelist if anyone wants to tackle that. Do you need any specific technical or industry experience? Philip, would you like to tackle that one?
Sure. I mean, it definitely helps, but I don't think it's a requirement. So, I mean, I can say that because I did my internship with an ultrasound company. My research in, well, of course, ultrasound research kind of helped me get my foot in the door there. So I didn't have any industry experience going to that company, but I had a lot of lab experience going in. So I had worked actually with their machines before. So I was going in and I actually knew more than some of the other interns about how those machines worked and how the data was processed and this kind of thing to some extent. So it helps, but again, it's not required. There were interns there that got their internships through other means that had never seen an ultrasound machine before. There was one person that was working with CT for several years and was working on a physiological device development project there. So I think your experience could kind of direct where your responsibilities lie in the internship, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can get in or not get in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I think I'll just reiterate, it really comes down to the match that in what the company's looking for. So some people might have more technical experience, some people might have more industry experience. It really depends what the position is and what the company is looking for. Okay. We have another question that I got in my personal chat. So the question is the MedTech program involved in the interviewing process for internships? So obviously we help set up interviews and we promote your profiles to our partner companies, but we actually are not involved in the interview itself. So we kind of leave that between the company and student to ask their own questions and answer their own questions. We do keep a close eye on interviews to kind of make sure that the process is going smoothly. But yeah, it's pretty much a free for all type of process for interviewing. So I do want to stay on this topic of what was your internship placement process like. So Monalisa, I think I'll ask you, could you please let us know what was that process like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I got the interview call from like 2 companies, I believe. Yes. And the both companies were very different. And they were looking for different experience for sure. I would say like for one company, my PhD experience was kind of a match, but I wasn't really hired by that company for some reason. But the company I was working with, my experience was not directly related, but I would say that during the interview process, they really gave me some scenario that what I should do in those scenarios, for instance. So I think that discussion was mainly based on my experience and what I was thinking if I was in that situation. So I think it's all about your experience and what you are ready to do and what you are able to do and able to give them. And it's okay if it's not related directly with your research experience that you are doing throughout. That's what I believe. But I would also like to mention, because it's a startup, you have a very good chance to learn many things that you are going to use in your future jobs. That's what I think. I learned a lot of things, a lot of skills. And so I think that's a good thing that I would say.
Perfect, thank you. And I am noticing in the chat, there are a lot of questions about the actual internship placement process rather than kind of, how to go about yourself during an internship and what the internship, experience is like. So that's really interesting to see. I will note that we are holding an info session for the Talent Accelerator program where you can learn a lot more about the program itself. And I think even more detail on what the internship placement process is like. What are the details of internships? Like there are questions about, are internships paid, which they are, and where are the details on that? So I'll just let you know that info session will be held next Tuesday, February 15th at 1 p.m. If you didn't get an invite to that, there will be information posted on our website and pretty much emails that will be sent out and distributed across all our universities. So I think at this point, I will start to wrap it up because we're approaching the top of the hour. I really want to thank all of our panelists for your excellent insight. It sounds like you really had some nice takeaways from this program, including the course specifically and the internships and hopefully the melding of those two in applying the coursework to the internship. And the idea is that this program serves you for the rest of your career. And we also touched on how this program helped you take the next steps in your career, which was really nice to see. So, on behalf of the Talent Accelerator Program, McGill and Ryerson and all our partner universities, thank you for participating. To the panelists, this has been a really insightful experience for me and hopefully for everyone in the audience as well. So thanks again. And everyone, please join me in a virtual round of applause.